Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, the weekend is here. Today is D-Day, Demonstration Day.
Yeah.
Defiance Day.
I was listening to Charlie Hurt on Fox and Friends this morning, and he said he was flying down on a plane to D.C. from Washington. He said, and he got on the plane, and he swears he was the only one going down to D.C. for the parade. Everybody else on that plane were demonstrators. And apparently they got their tickets from, George Soros and company. These are all prepaid demonstrators. And
well, I know it's Soros that's putting money in it. And the other person actually is the lady that was called out the other day, Christy Walton. Because if you look at the bottom of the ads, it's paid for by her.
Well, what's interesting is Laura Logan did a little report last night, which I thought we got to play it on this update program because it's so important going into the parade and demonstrations today. Laura Logan, listen to what she had to say.
If you go to a website called CrimeThink with the THINC on the end, CrimeThink, this is like a repository for anarchist tactics. And this is where they share their TTPs, their tactics, techniques, and procedures. And they share knowledge that they gain all over the world during these riots. So, people in your audience might have seen people all dressed in black on the streets of Paris, for example, burning things and looting, right? You see them they were at the Hong Kong protests. You saw the same thing. And in fact, when you read what they have on CrimeThink, they describe exactly why you need to dress all in black. This is a uniform, right? And it's because they know that when the police or somebody says, what did the person look like? The person who assaulted you, the person who stabbed you, the person who threw, an ice cream carton filled with concrete at you, right? Because it's made to look like it's just a carton of ice cream. They're going to say, well, they were all in black. Right, black hoodie, black pants, and so on and so on. And if you go onto CrimeThink, you will see in all these different languages, they tell you exactly what to do. And this uniform, which is, sort of, it's a security procedure for them. It hides their identity, but they also tell you to get rid of all identifying marks. So no tattoos should be visible. If you have any distinct facial hair, they tell you to get rid of it. They tell you exactly what to do if you're stopped by police. They tell you never to share that you're part of Antifa. So, for example, you remember that when there was that big story where Bill Barr said that there were, people fomenting the protest, and then the Associated Press did an article. It just made me laugh. They took all the records of the arrests and they went through them and they said, look, there's no one from Antifa has been arrested. And it's like, you morons, you absolute brain dead, worthless pieces of what. You don't know the first thing about your subject matter. You're going out there as the voice of authority, telling everybody, definitively the Attorney General is lying and none of this is true. Well, what is one of the first rules that you'll find, operational rules for Antifa worldwide, is don't ever tell anyone you're Antifa. Don't ever talk about your ideology. And that's the one part of their intelligence and security protocols. Then they have, more offensive protocols where they pretend to be something that they're not. And so, these things are very well thought out. They're well documented. They're publicly available. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure them out. It's right there in front of you. Go to crimethink.com or go to the Anarchist Library.
So there is a website, Bill, to coordinate all this nonsense.
Yeah, and it just made me think. They shield themselves in black garb and the hoodies and cover their face, and they have no ID on them. That way, if they get picked up, well, you don't know, and they can go back out in public, and nobody knows what they were up to. And I'm thinking about back to days of doing other things. And, one of the ways you'd catch a thief, is there were stain packs in money. Like if somebody stole something,
Right.
it would explode.
Burst. Yeah.
It would burst, and that would leave a stain on their hands. They did that in West Virginia for when they had the crystal meth problem down there. They said, okay, these people are going getting Coleman fuel, and they're getting this and that. So they got with the manufacturers, said, put this stuff in this stuff. So what happened is when they were out there cooking their crystal meth, their hands turned orange. So if you saw somebody at a store, you knew that that was a cooker, and you could follow the rat to the nest.
Right.
And get the whole bunch of them. So I'm wondering if they could make some kind of thing that's an airburst thing that comes down but would soak through and taint their skin, stain it for a while, that would last 30 or 40 days. So these people, when they go on public, you were one of the rioters.
Yeah. They are coming from all over the country, too, to Washington. I'm very concerned about what's going on. People may say, well, it's going to be mostly peaceful. Mostly is the key word. Protesters were there yesterday. That's right, Friday. And they actually caused a little turmoil at the Capitol. I heard nothing in the news about this, but it did happen, and 75 of them were arrested. Here's what it sounded like. Listen.
We got people breaking through the barriers of the Capitol building. We got people breaking through the barriers of the Capitol building. There's people that are breaking through the barriers of the Capitol building, rushing the Capitol steps. We got people rushing the Capitol steps right now. Capitol Police are responding to the break. Capitol Police are responding to those who broke through the Capitol barriers.
Now, I'd love to find out what happened to these people, because I have a feeling because they have a different mindset than the January 6ers, that they probably got a slap on the wrist and sent on their way with a promise of not doing that again. You know, they literally broke down the barrier. They ran maybe 100 yards to the Capitol steps, and that by itself was enough to break the law. You know.
Yeah, that by definition is an insurrection, and it's encouraged by people like Pelosi and Schumer and Schiff and all of these. What's that other guy's name?
Swalwell, Eric
Swalwell, but Cory, whatever it is,
Cory Booker.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that last night was a dress rehearsal for today.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to probably see it breached. And they, they're just exuberant. Well, you know what? They're so exuberant, and you encouraged them to be. I would go after all these political mouthpieces when they do that and say, you know what? We're going to do public trials. You get your defenders there. We won't deny you that. But we're going to tie up all the time and sit there and say, hey, look, networks, you got to cover it. Forget it. You covered all that. The other, you cover this. Let's let America see what you have been doing. And maybe take some executives from the networks and say, you know what? We're going to put you on trial, too, because we're being held hostage.
I wonder how many networks are going to carry the parade tonight, because I know Fox Nation is, but that's one of those pay services. I was surprised when I heard that this morning. I thought it was going to be on Fox Cable, the news channel. Apparently, it's only going to be on the behind the pay curtain, at Fox Nation. I hope that the people at PBS carry it, but I doubt it. They'll probably say their budget doesn't allow it. I think, Bill, we're at a point where the president should consider invoking the Insurrection Act, and we can talk about that in a second. I know you wanted to say something.
No, I was just saying, with everything going on, they probably don't want to have news there because they don't want to, show what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I would recommend that Fox just say, well, you're going to be there with the pay curtain. just have some people standing by so that when all hell breaks out, you are the network with the true video, because MSNBC, NBC, CBS, they're going to do their fairy tales and La La Land reports, and how it was a peaceful demonstration. You need to show that it's not peaceful, but I think it's going to get out of hand myself.
I do too.
I really do.
I did some research today, and I looked into the Insurrection Act. They throw the term around a lot, like, oh, it's never been used. Oh, it's terrible. He's actually thinking about using the Insurrection Act. And I figured it's important for you to know what the Insurrection Act is. So I did some research. The Insurrection Act of 1807 provides the president with the authority to deploy military forces within the United States under specific circumstances, effectively serving as an exception to the Posse Comitatus Act. This act allows the military intervention in these circumstances. Number one, a state requests federal assistance to suppress an insurrection. That hasn't happened. Okay, we know that. Number two, unlawful obstructions or rebellions making it impractical to enforce U.S. laws by regular judicial proceedings. That kind of has happened. Number three, the final one, actions within a state deprive individuals of constitutional rights, and the state is unable or unwilling to protect those rights. Bingo.
Bingo.
Yeah. Historically, the Insurrection Act has been invoked sparingly. By the way, I should point out that most places you go to on the internet that define the Insurrection Act have a liberal leftist bent. Like, well, you really shouldn't use it. But this one here says, historically, the Insurrection Act has been invoked sparingly, such as during the Civil Rights Movement to enforce desegregation and during the 1992 Los Angeles riots. Does that sound familiar? It sure does. The riots in L.A. Instances like President Eisenhower's use of federal troops in Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah. I guess it was under George Wallace, I guess. Anyway, maybe it wasn't. I take that back. That was before George Wallace. But he did use the Insurrection Act. Eisenhower did. And I believe during the Civil War it was used by President Lincoln. They don't talk about it here, but I believe if you check, President Lincoln did use it then. So there have been times when it's been used. Now,
it's a safety measure. It's like having the emergency brake in your car. You're not going to be driving 50 miles an hour and just go, oh, let's see what this does, and yank it. But it's there for an emergency. It is a measure that is an option for the president in times of crisis like this. And
also, Bill, under the Insurrection Act, he has enormous powers. And that's what frightens the left, because essentially he can turn to the judiciary and say, sit down and be quiet. I'm in charge now, and this is how it's going to be. And the left is, the first thing they're going to do is say, oh, he's being a dictator. No, he's being a president following a constitutional, act that was actually written in 1807. But he's, right now, every time he does something, it's being countermanded by the judiciary.
Oh, yeah.
And Bill, I think you're going to find that some of these judges, I was thinking about this too, I think you're going to find that some of these judges, somebody has something on them too. They're in some cases, not all cases, in some cases they're enthusiastically, dutifully going along with the party. But I think there are some judges who are being pressured into doing stuff they don't want to do because they've done stuff they shouldn't have done. And somebody's got something on them. When you have the deep state funding the riots, there's a deep state. I mean,
Soros, his money is behind it. Christy Walton, her money's behind it. She's put her name on the ads, and she's funding these No King protests. There's 1,800 that are going on today. We hear about the big ones, but they are all over the country that they've amassed them. Now you're going, well, that must mean there's a lot of people that are PO'd. No. These are because I can, if you wanted to, you could contact me. I'll send you the link. There is a company, there's several companies
Yeah.
that provide crowds. And, you think about it. There are people that have come to this country that are illegal. There are people that are just destitute and going, well, what am I going to do?
Right.
Well, would you like to go break things and blow them up and get paid? Well, yeah. Okay.
Well,
Come on, get on
what
the
did
bus.
the Democrats just do? They just shipped in 30 million strangers, who a lot of whom are unemployed.
Yeah.
A lot of these people who are demonstrating, who are running around with the Mexican flag, they're not citizens. They're not U.S. citizens. They're part of the problem.
Number one, whatever they got paid, if you get arrested because you were doing something out of line, find out what they got paid, strip them of that money, and go after that company and hold that company accountable too. We've got to start taking names and numbers and kicking butt.
Here's the other thing, though.
Because
if the Insurrection Act is in place, if he has the Insurrection Act, if I were the president, I would go after all these politicians who have encouraged disturbances during this No King's Day, and they're out there. A lot of Democrats are out there who they've said things, they've encouraged people to go out and cause disturbances, and these are public officials who are supposed to, all of them raise their right hand and swear to defend the Constitution of the United States of America, every single one of them, and they are then telling you to go out and cause problems, raise hell, and fight against the system.
So you're talking about governors, mayors,
Yes.
judges, all kinds of
Yes.
politicians, senators.
It's time to.
congressmen?
I'm sorry.
Lock them up.
You know what the big mantra of the Democrats during the Trump trials before he was president was, no one is above the law. No one is above the law. They screamed it from the mountaintop. Well,
So now the law is not in their favor because they're breaking the law.
yep. So
And you know what? This No Kings thing, did Biden act like he was a king, or he was presented like he was a king?
oh sure, and not only that, Bill, but think about this: who started the worldwide No Kings Day? Where did it come from? Who initiated it?
First time I heard the saying was from Schumer. He was the one that I first heard say, there are no kings, but he got that from somebody else. Schumer couldn't find his shoe size on the box,
Well,
the shoes came in.
They supposedly started in Europe. It's over there today too. This is not just an American thing. This is global. This No King's Day, and by the way, it didn't exist ever in history before today. No King's Day.
But they try to make it like it's a historical thing. They're rewriting history. And what should be obvious to everyone is when they have a little catchphrase, it's No King's Day, or whatever it is, their little phrase that they do. Now, if somebody tells me something, I'm going to relay it in my terms, my language. They don't do that. Lockstep with the Democrats, that's one thing, I'll give them kudos to. They march to the same beat of the same drummer all the time. So they go word by word what they were told to say. You'll hear Corey, you'll hear Schumer, you'll hear Pelosi, you'll hear every damn Democrat, and then you'll hear the person on the 6 o'clock news.
That's Senator
taking
Bill.
that paper and reading that story.
That's Senator Padilla from California.
That was staged.
Oh, big time. So what happens, right? Some time passes. All of the Democrats get the memo. You're saying, what are you talking about, Jim? All of them get the same memo. And the memo says, make sure you point out that he's mild-mannered. You're saying, what? Listen.
And anyone that knows Alex Padilla knows one thing about Alex Padilla. He's one of the most mild-mannered, decent people you'll meet.
I know Alex Padilla to be among the most mild-mannered of colleagues.
And Jamie is right. He is very mild-mannered. He's not the type of person who would necessarily do this.
People who may not be familiar with Senator Padilla, he is one of the most mild-mannered, nerdy, soft-spoken.
Who thinks of him as anything other than a reasoned, reasonable, mild-mannered senator.
Unbelievable. They have no shame. And you said something which is, at least, for God's sakes, change the script.
Yeah, if it were me, I would have said, if you know the guy, he's a gentle giant. I would have not used mild-mannered. I would have sat there and said, you know what? Let's put your own interpretation and signature on it. But again, it still smacks of the same stench. It's still the same pile of crap that they're doling out there. Now, I don't know that he's mild-mannered. Neither do any of these people.
Well, Bill, 3 days ago, you never heard of him, Alex Padilla.
Right. That's why they rolled him out. They're going, hey, we're going to make you famous now. And all you got to do is barge in. You're a big guy with a big voice. It's going to scare the hell out of them. It's not a press conference where you get to ask questions, but you're going to go blaring in there. And he did. And, he didn't identify himself. So what are you to think? You see this big guy charging in, screaming and yelling.
But see, this is all coordinated, folks.
You're damn right it is.
The whole process is coordinated. It's not something which is a happenstance. Don't think for 1 second that the demonstration in Pittsburgh is completely separate from the demonstration in Washington and separate from the one in L.A. and the one in Boston. They're all connected. They're all connected. Bill, what did you say, 1,500 of them or 1,300 of them?
1,800. Now, I thought it was going to be around 1,000 to 1,500, but, somebody we worked with, something thinking that, I'll send it to him. I'm like going, boy, did you read me frickin' wrong, And I looked down and I said, well, let's dive into, let's peel this onion back. And then I started reading about the company that's putting this together, and they work with other companies. And I said, there's a network of these companies that they couldn't do. Look, there's marketing companies, like if Dell Computers is at a fair, and they need people to work the booth and people to go walk the crowds and hand out things. They hire these companies, but they can't make money on just that. So they've gotten into the business of providing crowds. Oh, don't worry. You're going to have 1,500 people there. You need 3,000? No problem. We've got 3,000 people that we can pay them 50 or 100 or 150 bucks a day or more, because you're paying for it, and they'll be there. And they'll carry your little sign, and they check in the morning. They do everything. They get their little talking points. If it's a legit business, but if it's you or these political movements, they're told, don't go out there and do anything violent. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Well,
so in other words,
I'm afraid, Bill, that I'm afraid of what's going to happen in D.C. particularly. I think it'll happen in other cities, but I think that the focal point for this whole demonstration will be D.C. You're gonna have thousands of our troops there marching in a parade, looking their very best, right, in all their nice parade uniforms. But I wonder, are they safe? I mean, they're not going to be marching with loaded rifles, I would think. Go ahead.
Here's the trigger for everybody to all of a sudden break out, and that's this right here. It's called a cell phone. Everybody can be peaceful until they get the signal, and there's somebody somewhere at one of these events that are going to break out, and then it'll go viral. And when that happens, the lid's off, all hell breaks loose globally.
Well, you're in D.C., and I'm sure they have cell phone jammers, so that may be, you may find out when you're down there looking at the parade that maybe your cell phone isn't working. I'm just saying. But I am concerned that the president's going to be there. I think some of his cabinet members are going to be there. I worry about drones, Bill. Everyone's worried about, bigger missiles and stuff like that. But we've seen that the weapon of choice in 2025 isn't the expensive rocket or cruise missile. It's a bunch of little drones with that pack a wallop. That's what the whole sneak attack on Russia was from Ukraine on their air bases. That was drones. And who's to say that's not going to happen in D.C.? You may say, well, they've got it covered. Well, I mean, I don't trust these people. The drones could have been brought into buildings, and may have been sitting there for God knows how long. They could be on rooftops. I mean, I'm very concerned with what's going to happen in D.C. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why we're doing a show today, a shorter show today. We probably will be back tomorrow to talk about what happened if something does happen.
Well, let's hope that we don't have to be back tomorrow, but chances are we are going to have to be back tomorrow. And I'm wondering if now for a while you remember all the drones that were over there in that area of the country going up and down, and everybody saw them. And for a while I was going, you know what, that might have been a company just test flying these drones, because they have these drones that fly up and do all these beautiful things like fireworks and lights in the sky.
Yep.
And maybe they were doing that rehearsal of working on those things and practicing. But then again, maybe they were rehearsing for this event, because this event, now I didn't know all this stuff was planned for today, but it's been in the works since before Trump got in. They were going, wouldn't that be great if you won the presidency? And, they quietly sat there and said, yeah, the 14th will be the 50th birthday of the Army. It'll be Trump's 79th birthday. There's a lot of things.
Well, they're trying to make it, by the way, sound like it's just Trump's birthday they're celebrating.
No, well, they're trying to. This is the big FU to Trump for his birthday.
Yep.
But you know what? It is the FU to the Army. It is the FU to anybody that served under that uniform, whether you're left or right. It's an FU. We don't care about you. That's what they're saying. And if you're marching in that rally, I guess what you did was really worthless in your life.
The war, by the way, in the Middle East continues. Israel made a point of going after military targets when it attacked, and it's still doing that, by the way. The response from Iran was to attack civilian sites, to go after residential areas, and they also went after Israel's version of the Pentagon. And I also heard this morning that the embassy in Baghdad, Iraq, was targeted. Now, the U.S. has said, no. But there's video at the embassy in Baghdad, and I want to play for you what it sounded like. Listen very carefully.
Get away from take cover and await further instructions. Duck and cover. Get away from the window. Take cover and await further instructions.
So that's the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. And so apparently something's going on there. And I thought it was interesting, but one of the instructions was duck and cover.
And that reminds me of, as a kid going to school, you remember having to get under your desk, which was probably not the most logical thing. Now, I grew up in California. So duck and cover was, the old, the wartime thing that they were worried about if there were bombs. But also, out in California, there's earthquakes that you got to think about, and you'd crawl under your desk so they could find you, when it's all over with. It's like sealing your door. 2 people in here. That was for body counts. If you ever sit there in that shelter in place, and you seal your door, and you put how many people inside, it's not for rescue. It is for body counts, just so you know.
They used to tell us, Bill, when I was a kid, literally, we used to do these, I guess they were tests, where we had to put our pencils down and get under our desks. Duck.
They sounded a siren.
Yeah. And the thing is, like you said, as you got older, you realize all they wanted to do was find that little pile of dust under the desk, the metal frame of the desk. That's because it wasn't going to save you.
No. They just needed to know where you were, but the teachers didn't know that either. But, we need to have a modern version of duck and cover and how to sit there and protect yourself. I mean, there's natural disasters. There have been coordinated violence, random attacks at schools. There are all kinds of things that are going on. And I would like to think that people would know what to do. And we've had it pretty cushy for a while in the United States. Yeah, we've had those rogue things, shooters and whatnot. But we've got over 3 million unknowns in this country, militant groups that are in this country.
Oh, I know.
And, we are no longer safe.
Well,
and it's going to be a while to make us safe again.
There's a lot of people who are concerned about the fact that today some of these groups may raise their heads, make themselves known. We may be in for a difficult stretch of time. We've lived in a very protected and cushy environment for a long time in this country. That may end soon.
The one thing, if you go back and repeat the news, even on MSNBC, CBS, ABC, all of them, this has been co-sponsored and sanctioned by your trusted media and the Democrat Party. This is a staged event. Now, I don't think everybody knows exactly what to expect, but if all hell breaks out today, you've got the blue to thank for it. And remember that.
Yep, that's exactly right. So with that, I think it's maybe a good time for us to wrap things up. Keep your head on a swivel today. Now, this is just my advice to you. I would stay away from public areas. I would not go, even out of curiosity, to see these, quote, demonstrations, because God knows what's going to happen. Things that you can't imagine may happen in these places, and you just have to protect yourself. The best way to protect yourself is to stay away from them. If you are planning a long drive, reconsider, because you may need to be near your home base.
Well, make sure your car is gassed up. Go before anything happens. Gas, make sure you have some basic supplies. Get a couple of gallons, 4 or 5 gallons of water. Get some things that you can cook dried. I'm not saying it's going to be bad at the house where, things are going to be tampered with, but have some basic supplies.
You make a good point, though, too. A lot of people think, well, there are rest areas along the way. I can always get gas, but if they don't have a generator and the power's gone, you can't get the gasoline.
All you need is one person, one rogue person to sit there and drive a delivery truck that's packed with ammonium nitrate or something that explodes. They could go to a nuclear facility and we're delivering your linen. Oh, okay, come on in, and then boom, and that reactor gets breached. 25-mile area. That is the immediate contamination, and usually, according to the Nuclear Regulatory Agency, I knew a guy that used to go out and inspect the facilities. He goes, 12 miles is the accepted kill zone. It's the standard protocol. That is the kill zone of a power plant. 25 miles, if you hear the place has got a problem, you better get out of the 25-mile circle immediately.
Sure.
And
if something goes off in New York, that's a lot of New Jersey and Connecticut you have to deal with, too. People don't realize that.
Yeah, you don't realize that. So, that's a reason. Hopefully that's not going to happen today. So don't say, Bill said, because I didn't say that. I'm just saying, as a precaution, get some damn iodine pills, because while you're sitting there in traffic trying to get out of there, the radiation would get to you before you got the hell out of Dodge. You'd have a chance with the iodine pills. And again, you want to have, an emergency
plan.
Supply of water and maybe some foods that are packaged that are sealed,
So listen, tomorrow we probably, it's 50-50. If something happens today, count on us being back tomorrow to talk about it and give you our 2 cents. And
maybe 3.
If it's quiet today or this afternoon, which is, by the way, what we hope. We hope that it's just a nice parade and everything is fine. And that's a possibility, but I doubt it. You don't send all these troublemakers down to these cities and think they're going to go down there to watch the parade. They're going down there to disrupt and cause a problem. So, that being said, say a prayer for our country, say a prayer for our president and our vice president and the cabinet. and say a prayer for our military personnel who are going to be down there, you know, amongst all this nonsense. You know, Bill, I was thinking, what happens if they cause some kind of disturbance? I wonder if our military who are marching in the parade will be able to quickly pivot to protect the president and the Capitol, or will they be stuck like a lot of people? You know,
I don't know. Hey, let me ask you a question. Jeffrey Epstein's place, what was, or not place, but plane, what was it called?
It was called the Lolita Express.
Oh, that's interesting. I just saw a story pop up. A male elementary school bus driver, dressed in schoolgirl outfit, confronted by parents, calls his bus, and, you know, he's there in his little pink dress and his little blouse and his wig and his makeup on and his high heels. Oh, this is the Lolita line. I thought it was an interesting choice of words, but
yeah. I knew you weren't paying attention to what I was saying. I knew you were
I was paying attention, but I was looking at his story too. I was going like, so there probably will be some weird things, but I'm hoping that we don't have disastrous things. But
yeah, well,
I'm not holding my breath because there's hot spots all over the world.
Folks, check back tomorrow. This is going to be forever green. I mean, if we're not back, this I think has been an interesting episode. We talked about the Insurrection Act. I think the president, by the way, should use it. Enough of this nonsense. Sit down, Gavin Newsom. Sit down, all you activist judges. You're irrelevant right now. Period.
Gavin, I think, is kind of a messenger boy of what a lot of the left wants to do, because in the daytime he does one thing, he's kind of quiet and does this. At night he gets on the microphone and talks about how great California is and how they ought to just break away, you know, and
isn't that sedition?
Yes, it is sedition. But, you know, if that state does it, then there's going to be other blue states that want to follow. And we're on the crux of something very bad in our history. But I would say it is time, going back to your Insurrection Act, time to arrest mayors, judges, you know, governors, politicians that are all doing this because...
By the way, I should point out, and we didn't mention this yesterday, do you know that federal detention center in New Jersey?
Yeah.
They had a break. They had a demonstration, and 4 prisoners broke out of it the day before yesterday. Now,
that's nice.
You know, once again, another demonstration by leftist loons, and that distraction caused these 4 criminals to escape. Anyway, just point that out. Bill, I'm done. We will do this again probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, then all I got to do is stick a fork in it and say, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.